this gap between appearance and reality. And that gap informs a lot of the neuroses we have around passing and around how our community perceives us and how we interact with the world, whether or not we consider ourselves women or not.
Do you have any history with that, or like how did you end up in the manifesto there?
Frankly, I have no idea. I think someone sent me the PDF or something, or I was getting Twitter DMs where people were like, "You're in the manifesto and it's cool." And I think maybe I just like checked it out and I was like, "Huh, I am." I think when people told me that, I didn't even expect it to be true. I was like, they're probably mistaking me for someone else. But yeah, I am. And it is a picture of me that I think comes from the Reddit's trans timelines, which if I'm correct, I'm probably the top or second. Oh, maybe not anymore. Oh no, okay. I am the second most upvoted post on that forum of all time, which is quite surreal.
That is very surreal. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it's very weird, right? Because I think it speaks to this broader pattern within the trans community and my interactions with it, which I alluded to earlier when I said there's kind of much ado about nothing, in the sense that like I'm looking at this picture now and it's a good picture of me when I was like 18 years old. But also I know that like I have other pictures of me at this time where like I did not look good. I looked like very masculine. And so I think that so much of the trans experience is kind of defined by this gap between appearance and reality. And that gap informs a lot of the neuroses we have around passing and around how our community perceives us and how we interact with the world, whether or not we consider ourselves women or not. And also why people have kind of been so interested in me historically, despite the fact that I think I'm somewhat unexceptional. I think it's because I take like occasional photos like this where I just look, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't even think I look like that. There's much prettier people on this forum. It might just be that it's like I was 14 maybe, so it's kind of like I was a fairly early transitioner, and maybe it's that I look maybe like ordinary in a way that is kind of achievable and people can project themselves onto me. And I think maybe for all those reasons, like people kind of attach themselves to this picture and they see like this young kid who's got like a kind of scowl and this greasy hair and chapped lips, and she's looking at the camera kind of ominously. And then they see this young woman and they think, oh, that could be me. Like I was that kid. I was that nerdy kid who didn't take good care of their appearance. I could be an ordinary looking girl. And maybe that's quite appealing to people.
Yeah. Is it weird to, I don't know how to ask this, but like, obviously, you know, you've made a career out of being online through OnlyFans, through, you know, you've streamed, you've made YouTube videos. I guess, how do you feel being so heavily perceived? Is that like a weird question? Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think, I don't know, being perceived is something that a lot of people want until they get it. It's a little bit like fame or money or something, where when you look at it from the outside, you kind of see a lot of the positives, but you don't really see the negatives. When I was 19, I remember name searching on 4chan for myself constantly. And there were periods where every day of the week, there'd be a new thread about me, and it'd be full of people just like tearing into me, into my appearance, into, you know, my opinions, beliefs, more so my appearance at that time. And when you're a 19-year-old, that can be really hard. And I think that it forced me to develop a resiliency and a thick skin, and also the ability to kind of not care what people are saying about you. But it also made that time in my life really hard. Like I had people who were like coming to my parents' house and like threatening like my sister as well.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, threatening to dox me. I had someone who was like paying people for my dox information. And that's, I think it's hard to deal with when you're a teenager.
Definitely. I would imagine that's hard for most people.
Yeah, for sure. I think it forced me to grow up in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, I think it caused me to kind of be jaded and fearful in some ways as well. But I think ultimately, I think I've grown from my experiences and I'm a better person for them. Yeah, I think that it's it's been hard as much as it's been good.
If you could go back, would you do it again? You know, I'm assuming the income tips the scale in a direction, but like, given everything you've gone through, or like, yeah, would you repeat it if you could go back and do it again?
There's this analogy that I sometimes use for transition, and I think it probably speaks to this question in a broader sense, which is that I've often felt like transition it began with me standing on one side of a door, and people on the other side were telling me, you need to come through this door and get what's on the other side, because it's going to make your life so much better, and you're going to be so much happier, it's going to be great. And I look at this door and I inspect it and I say, hey, this door is covered in needles that are going to inject you with like a pain serum as soon as you walk in, and it's going to be brutal and hellish and awful. And they're like, oh, no, it's fine. Like, yes, it's going to be bad, transition's going to be hard, but once you get on the other side, it'll be totally worth it. And so I'm like, okay. And then I go through, and it turns out that on the other side is like a cupcake or something. It's like a small benefit.
Yeah.
And I eat the cupcake and I'm like, this is pretty good. It wasn't worth going through that experience. And then people are like, well, why don't you go back? Like, why don't you just leave the room? And that would involve going through all of these painful needles all over again.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel like people like misunderstand me when I say like, I wish that I hadn't transitioned, or like, I feel like transition didn't work out as well as I'd hoped, where they're saying like, why don't you detransition or just go back? And it's like, well, because I am in a better place now, but I'm making this evaluation based on a calculation of cost and what I had to do in order to get here. So yes, I'm better off, but was it worth all the sacrifices? I'm not sure. So I think maybe that I feel similarly about being so public online, where I did it and it was a benefit, but I think that in hindsight, life would probably be easier if I didn't. And now the cat's kind of out of the bag.
Yeah. What would you have done otherwise? Like, did you have a dream?
Not really. I mean, I come from